Welcome to That 80s Show. This town is something like a ghost town because it's blowing up. So we're all going to be ghost story. What is happening in the city of Johannesburg?
You know, our friend Ryan said to me, are you guys going to play It's the End of the World as we know it on the show this week? Because that sure is how it feels.
Oh my word. If you don't know, in Johannesburg we don't know as of the time of putting the show together what it was. It's rumored to be a gas explosion, but at one of the main cities in the city center just exploded. And did you see the new video coming out through the taxis?
I think yes, I have seen that, the taxis bouncing in the air as if they're toys.
Wow.
It's absolutely crazy. I think explosion is the wrong word because that gives you an idea of like a giant fiery ball, like it wasn't that.
Right.
It was almost an earthquake, but an earthquake that moved upwards.
It like popped. It just it's like the
road popped open. Yes. And that's why the REM song is so pertinent, because it starts with an earthquake.
Yes, you're right. So it is the end of the world we suspect that is coming. It has to be the end of the world because this very fair podcast, we've got to get all the housework. What do they used to call it? Yes, they used to call it the house. What do they call it in
house
a meeting
show.
When you sit there? House show, the house bunny. Anyway, we got to promote the fact that this show is up for an award nomination, and you've got a week or so left to vote for us, right? So the African Podcast and Voiceover Awards, they picked us as one of the best music podcasts in Africa. Voting is now open. We'll put the link in our bio. You can go through there. You'll find the link on That 80 Show SA Facebook page. Scroll down to music and give us a vote. Okay.
Please. If you like us in any way whatsoever, I have no idea who our competition is.
I've given them a listen. It's they're not bad, but they're not us.
Oh, no one's us.
They're not us. No one's us.
Are you saying we're good?
I'm saying.
Hold on.
So I'm going to give they call it a podcast promo swap. Actually, we had him. We interviewed him. He's a friend of yours, Benji Moody.
Yes,
we had him on the show about a year or so ago. You and Barrett interviewed him.
Yeah,
and he started his own podcast called Shooting from the Hip.
From the hip.
Find it.
From the hip.
Shooting from the hip. Is it from the hip? Just from the hip.
Yes.
Episode
I'm halfway through the first episode, and there have been 2 mentions of Wham. Benji, we love you. I mean, we love you anyway, but we love you more because there's been 2 mentions of Wham on the podcast, and I'm only halfway through. No, it is really great. It is so great.
It's really good. So he interviews all his musical friends.
So when he's nominated next year, we've got no hope. So this is the year that we have to win.
That's what I'm saying. We got to do it now, right? So he's got Mark Alex. Mark Alex is his first guests. Like Dori says, obviously Mark Alex, they're going to be inspired by Wham. I mean, they have to be. So you got to give that a listen, right? But the reason I bring it up is we were chatting, said, like, what do you think? Have you heard of it? And I said, that's what a grown-up nostalgia podcast must sound like, right?
Yeah.
It's very mature.
A grown-up one specifically.
No,
yes.
No.
I try and be a grown-up sometimes, Paulo, but you drag me down.
Oh, no. We spend, honestly, I don't know how many hours there are in a week, but however many hours there are in a week, we have to be a grown-up except for this one. So I'm not about to be that grown-up life. I'm not about to be that grown-up life.
I'm all good with being dragged down. It's all good.
Good, right.
Yes.
And we have got another... that's Barrett Edelstein.
Yes.
I mean, this guy is a
prolific podcaster.
Also up for an APFA award in the lifestyle and entertainment sector. But he will, like he says, he reach out and he puts it out there to anybody. And the Wham documentary comes out. Of course, you may have heard us talking about it. We have
maybe. I mean, you might have caught a minute of it. I don't know. We haven't spoken about it that much, have we?
No. We just touched on it.
Quick mention here and there.
So anyway, we say, you know what? We got to try get somebody involved in the documentary. We've got to try get them on the show. We've got to talk to them. So we try, got a couple of people on Netflix who kind of like scrounge around, see who we know. He goes, oh, wait, I think I know somebody. So next week, we're talking to him. The pod will probably come out next week or the week after, but keep following That 80 Show SA on Facebook to find out when. Simon Halfon, he is one of the producers of the Wham documentary. He is also a graphic designer who has worked on so many artists' album covers, some of the most iconic album covers. And we're going to be talking to him next week.
That I did not know.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Even you'll be in for a surprise. You'll be in for a surprise. Oh, no. So we're going to be talking to him about that. So that is coming up on That 80 Show, because that's what Barrett does. We say, Barrett, go find this person. He gets him. And it's one step closer on the road to Ridgeley. We will eventually interview Andrew Ridgeley. Okay. And I don't know what we'll talk to. We'll die trying, but I don't know what we're going to talk to Andrew Ridgeley about, because he is doing all the press at the moment. He is everywhere. Right?
I'm sure we'll find some weird, obscure thing to ask him that nobody else has.
He'll can us. I don't think he would have a second for our shenanigans. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he'll smell us out and say, no, I'm going to go talk to Benji Moody because he's a grown-up. You two are idiots. I have no time for your shenanigans.
And he's so sophisticated and well-spoken. And we would just don't know if it's a match.
No. He's a sort of man who knows how to, I don't even know how to say it, a cravat, right?
Cravat?
I call it a cravat. I call it a neckerchief.
A neckerchief? That's okay.
One of those.
Yes,
he can wear one. He's a man that knows how to tie that. Not tie it. I don't even know how to say it. So he's got no time for us. What he does
He's
have
a man who enjoyed his wealth like a grown-up.
That man is getting all the royalties. And no money spent stupidly, nothing irresponsible, gives the money to charity, make sure he's got the lifestyle he wants. You know what he wants, though? He wants to see George Michael, the hologram. This is what he's saying.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so what are we talking about? He's been doing all the talk shows. He's been all over the place. And he's saying that he absolutely loved watching ABBA Voyage. Right? And ABBA Voyage was the avatars, right? So it was the 4 members of ABBA. I very much doubt it was their motion capture suits. It was probably somebody dancing like them. But basically, they wore the suits, and it was a virtual hologram concert streamed from their home in Sweden into London, right?
Yeah.
So you watched ABBA, sold out, critically acclaimed. Andrew Ridgeley says, we could do that. I wouldn't hate seeing a hologram George Michael and Wham reunion.
But would he also be hologrammed, or would he be there? That's the question. Would it be him with a hologram, or both of them hologrammed?
He says, when asked his thoughts on a hologram tour, he replied, my thinking would be fantastic to have Wham at its pomp playing live.
Okay, so it'll be a hologram of him when he was younger.
He says a decision between himself and George Michael's estate. And I can't speak for them. I don't know how they'd feel, but I'd pay to go and see it.
Now, would you pay to go and see it?
Yeah.
Because what is the difference between that and watching the documentary or like footage of them performing? What's the difference?
I think it's being at a concert, because if you're going to watch them performing, right?
Yeah.
So this is to go to a concert.
The fans are at that age, my age, where we don't really want to be at a concert.
So when you go to a concert, right, you most of the time, especially our age, because we're not going to go fight Golden Circle, we're watching people on the screen anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're there for the vibe.
The vibe.
So I would be intrigued. There are a lot of factors that have to fall into place, but I'd go. I think short answer, I'd go.
I mean, I'd go. Obviously, if it was practical, I'd go. But I don't know if I'd feel the same excitement as I felt like when we were at the AHA concert, for example. Yes. I don't know if it would be the same idea.
I think the thing is, when you're at a concert, sometimes it's just enough being in the same airspace as a particular person. So they're not being in the airspace, I suppose, is
yeah. And I pretty much watched Morton on stage. I glanced at the screens now and again, but I was watching him on stage.
So what if Andrew, Pepsi, and Shirley are on stage or backstage because they've got to be wearing a hologram suit?
Yeah.
And then it's a weird concept. It's actually it's a weird concept. So maybe
I don't know.
Would you watch this? Would you watch this though? Because then Andrew Ridgeley says that he wants to take part in Strictly Come Dancing.
I don't watch Strictly Come Dancing. I watched once when a friend of mine was on. That was it. It's not something no.
Strictly Come Dancing is huge in the UK. It's absolutely monstrous. They've tried it here a few times. Doesn't work. It is huge in the UK. He says they're busy looking for new people to come in. If you don't know, it's a celebrity, normally not a current celebrity that dances with although Andrew is making sure he is super current. He is really getting his moments in the sun thanks to the Wham documentary. And then they dance with a professional dancer. So he says they're looking for people. He says he'd love to be. A fan asked, fan said, we need to make it happen. I would love to jive. I would love to cha-cha-cha. And I would love to foxtrot or American smooth quick step.
Wow.
I've got to find the footage of him saying those words.
I mean, do you think he can already do those dances, or he would be like, I can learn these things, I'll be brilliant? Do you think he already does it?
He coordinated all of Wham's moves. He was the choreographer. I think he could do it. I think he could pick it up.
I suppose he would still have those moves. Those moves from that Top of the Pops. Yep, I remember
Definitely.
them. Yep.
Definitely. Only question is he dancing in espadrilles? Or is he dancing in fancy little ballroom shoes?
That's the question.
Last week we had movie recommendations. We both ended up in the category of sci-fi satire. We go into our movie recommendation part of the show. Dori, what do you have for the people to go into the video store of our minds to rent?
I have something a little bit different this week in that it's not a movie from the 80s and nor is it set in the 80s. But I rewatched it again recently. It's a very well-known film. Well, amongst certain circles, let's say it's a well-known film. I rewatched it recently with my teenager, and I was gobsmacked that even though this movie came out in the 2000s and is set in the early 90s, the majority of its soundtrack is 80s. Because the group of young teens, the group of teens that the story focuses around are typical hipster types who were all about loving older music. So it's the early 90s, but they're listening to stuff from like the mid 80s because that's the cool music, right? So with the exception of like one or two songs on the soundtrack, it's pretty much all 80s stuff. And it's a great joy when you're watching a movie and you're not expecting it and you hear an 80s song. It's like, wah, like in life, you know? And so I just wanted to give it a little bit of a mention because it's also a great film if you haven't already seen it. It is going off Netflix in South Africa shortly, which is why we actually watched it the other night. And so it is called, you'll know it, I'm sure. It's called The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
I know the movie. I never watched it. It doesn't look like it's for me.
It is full of angst. It has so much angst, it might as well be an 80s movie. But it has 90s angst, which is still pretty angsty, I have to tell you. But it's a great film. It's a great film based on a book. I haven't read the book. Apparently the book is much better as usual, blah, 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 whatever. The main thing you need to know is this movie has Paul Rudd. And do I need to say more than that? Do I need to actually say anything more than this movie has Paul Rudd and an 80s soundtrack? Go watch it.
So coming at... This is sort of left field, Dori. Now, of course, this is a visual audio medium. No one really, people know me, know what I look like, but I've been called a lot of other things.
Right.
Senzo hosts Working Title FC, another podcast. You can vote for that one as well. We're just full of the nominations.
Yes. Well, you are.
We share a GIF of, I don't know if you've ever seen that Paul Rudd GIF of him going, "Hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me. I don't know if you've seen that. He's busy pouring wine. Or whatever. Anyway, it's a gift. No. It's a whole thing. So Senzo says, "Yeah, Paulo, you look like Paul Rudd." I was like, "I've never got that. I've never got Paul Rudd." Now the thing is,
no, I don't see it. Not. Sorry, even with hair, I don't see it. Sorry.
It's not, because people are lazy, because I don't have hair, so obviously I only ever look like bald people, right? It's like, oh, God forbid I could look like someone else. The only one I ever got, there was one guy in the American Office that people said I look like him, okay, and he's got hair. So not for nothing.
I'm trying to think who could look be.
Like Paul Rudd.
Who could you have looked like from the American Office?
The guy who looks like me. That's who I look like. That guy.
I don't know.
I didn't really watch it. He comes in as a executive from a big city to now come run that branch. That's who the character is. That's who he is. Okay. But anyway.
I'll have to revisit.
I may or may not look like Paul Rudd.
Okay. You don't. I'm going to be honest with you. You don't.
No, it's not going to happen. It's not. You don't have to. You can lie. The guy called BJ Novak, he played Ryan Howard.
Oh, God, you do. Now that you mention that, you do look like him.
Yeah.
Yes.
See? So I've got, that's the only hair guy I've ever got. I get bald guys all the time. I never get hair
But if
guys.
we could shave Ryan's head, it would be you. Or if we put a wig on you, it would be him.
I could.
Oh, my God. Yes. Right.
Maybe. Right. Okay.
No, that is accurate. That is accurate. I've never thought of it before, but now that you've said it, I will never unsee it.
See. So do you have perhaps a soundtrack or a track list of the songs that popped up in the perks of being a boring Wallflower movie?
It's not a boring Wallflower movie. Some of the songs are a bit obscure, and I'd be honest, I didn't even know them. And then even the ones that there was someone that I did know, and I was like, is this 80s? Is this 90s? And some of them turned out to be 80s. A band called The Samples with a song called Could It Be Another Change? Never heard the song before. Mm-hmm. It's from the 80s. And then the most recognizable 80s song it's a great scene in the movie. They're at school prom, or they're at the Sadie Hawkins dance. Now, anyone who's watched enough American movies knows the Sadie Hawkins dance is the one where the girl asks the guy, blah, 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 whatever. And they're there cynically because, they are like the hipster types. So they're like, ugh, why would we go to a stupid dance? But let's go anyway. And everything's going along normally. And then all of a sudden, Dexy's Midnight Runners, Come On Eileen starts playing, and they go crazy and run onto the dance floor and start dancing to it. And it's so cool. It's such a great scene. So that's probably the most well-known 80s song from the soundtrack. Galaxy 500 Tugboat, I think that was from the 80s as well. This one, definitely from the 80s. New Order Temptation. Very, very cool. The Smiths, Asleep. Huge part of the story, huge part of the movie. Not one of my favorite Smith songs, so I was like, whatever. But it's quite a big part of the story. Sonic Youth, Teenage Riot. Dear God by XTC. Pearly Dewdrops Drops by the Cocteau Twins. These are all very,
it's really obscure. An emo movie, hey?
It is the most emo movie. It is a very emo movie. Very emo. But there's a part in it where they hear a song on the radio. Or no. Was it on the radio or was it on a mixtape? Oh, mixtape, big part of the movie. Which is why I was like, okay, so it's early 90s, but mixtapes are still a big deal, which is kind of cool. Big part of the storyline. And I think it was either on the radio or on a mixtape that they hear Heroes by David Bowie, but they don't know what it is. They're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing song. What is it? Turns out Heroes by David Bowie was from 1977, so that's why they obviously were like, they didn't go back far enough in their cool music thing. And it was just, it again struck me. And they basically spent the entire movie trying to figure out what was that song. And then by the end, they figure it out. That's not the main storyline, by the way. It's just a tiny part of the story, but it's just part of it. And I just thought, the days before Shazam.
There was a time before Shazam. How?
Yes.
How did we do it? You know what we do? You know what we did? We all know what we did.
Before the internet.
We'd go to the record shop.
Yes. We'd sing to the person behind the counter.
and just hope that we get the one non-dickhead at Look and Listen in Rosebank who's going to entertain you and your bullshit musical knowledge. They were the worst. They were the worst. And this is not to, I am going to shame you because they no longer exist. Look and Listen, Rosebank. If you worked there, you are very rude to people. You did not cater for anybody. Who were they ever polite to?
I worked at Look and Listen in Sandton, and I was always very polite to people who sang to me. I often didn't know what they were singing, but I always tried to be helpful.
So
did you not ever work in a music shop, Paulo? Did you not have that rite of passage working in a music shop?
Dori, my dad owned liquor stores, right?
Oh, right.
I worked in liquor stores. People sang to me, but I didn't have to tell them what song they were singing.
Of
right?
course.
So if people don't know Joburg, now we're just saying. So Sandton is a very upper class area, right? Fancy.
Yes.
Today they got Gucci stores, all that. But it's always been the place to go. But now I'd imagine the Look and Listen there, you're getting a mix of everybody coming in. Rosebank
lots of tourists.
Is very much
lots of tourists specifically.
Yeah. So you're catering for a whole bunch of people.
There. Yeah,
everything's around there, right? Rosebank was in the hipster, in the arts district, right?
Yes.
A lot of artists are staying in Melville, Auckland Park, Rosebank itself. So it was a very eclectic crowd. So if you worked at the Look and Listen there, you had to know your shit. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And because you're going to get asked. With Sandton, you kind of get is there the new Backstreet Boys? Like that's what you're going to get. Where, they got the world music section in Look and Listen Rosebank was bigger than most CD stores. Bigger than most record stores. That's what you're dealing with.
Yeah. And you remember there was also CD Warehouse in Rosebank, and the two were like rivals in a way.
And some of them crossed over, got poached, it was a whole thing.
So anyway, I'm not going to even talk about the plot of my movie because you're either going to watch it or you're not. But it's about the soundtrack. Okay.
But just quickly, just top line. Elevator pitch, top line.
Angsty teenagers with somewhat mental illness issues and finding your tribe and your friends when, everyone sucks. And then you have this amazing friendship and things happen and there's romance and there's heartbreak and then everyone goes off to college.
Okay, Paul Rudd, does he play a teenager or is he a teacher?
No, he's a teacher. He is the teacher. Okay. He's the teacher that if you were lucky, you had, or you just always wanted. He was almost like Robert Williams in Dead Poet Society, that inspirational teacher that changes your life.
All right. Okay, so some of the cast. Logan Wade Lerman, I don't recognize him, but he's in a series.
He's in a series called Hunters, which is really good. I think it's on Amazon. I don't know him from anything else.
Okay, there's Kidnappings. Ezra Miller, he is in it as well. I can imagine the writer of his.
He's actually very good. He's very good. I know he's been cancelled now and all that stuff, but he's actually he's enjoyable to watch. His character's
Nina
great.
Nina Dobrev. She's in something right now on Netflix.
She is in The Outlaws on Netflix, yes. But this is her when she was quite a bit younger.
And then Emma Watson.
The very other recognizable face is Emma Watson, who you might know as Hermione from the Harry Potter films.
I assume this was after Harry Potter, 2012.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So she would have been 20. She's actually a lot younger than a lot older than you think.
Yes, she just looks very young. She looks very young, but she's older.
She wouldn't even have been a teenager when she did this movie. That's 10 years ago. Yeah, she was 21. Okay. All right. So that's Dori's movie. Lots of angst. Great soundtrack.
Just watch it for the soundtrack. It's going off Netflix soon. So watch it quick.
Okay. We'll watch it quick.
Yeah.
I've developed a strategy of selecting movies.
Oh dear.
Based on, here's what I think was happening. So here's what I think was happening, right? So now Netflix, you go. It doesn't matter how many people are watching Netflix at the same time, you can watch it. We all know back in the day, video stores, if your movie wasn't in, you had to choose something else, right? Mm-hmm. So what I suspect happened, and I've watched enough documentaries to kind of go, I don't think it's just a wild theory. What I suspect happened is that a lot of kind of B-rate production houses were making movies to trick people into thinking they were watching the movie they really wanted, right? So there
Yes,
would
I
be
know what you
the
mean.
hit movie. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So take American Ninja, okay? So you got American Ninja, you go to the video store, I got to watch American Ninja. I got to hire it. But then they'd make a movie like Ninja in America that you'd go, I think it's the same. It's a ninja. Or you send your parents to go hire it. It's American Ninja. And they go, oh, it's a ninja in America. It's obviously this one. Right, it's it.
And instead of Michael Dukakis, was it Michael Dukakis?
Instead of Michael Dudikoff, it was Michael Dukakis.
Dudikoff.
And this is a nightmare of a movie. I want to watch that shit.
I knew the name. Okay, I got the name wrong.
This is an old man in his pajamas, not a ninja. Okay. So I think that happened a lot, right?
Yeah.
So in my movie, I've started to look at the movies like that. And I also want movie oddities, bizarre, odd movies. Okay. I think that's where I go. That's where I live. So to the point that you had Cannonball Run. Everyone loved Cannonball Run, right?
Yes.
Cars,
yes.
like a main guy with facial hair, right? So you go to the video store, you go, on the cover, there's a car. There's an actor a person I recognize, he's got facial hair. Hire it. So instead of coming home with Cannonball Run, I come home with a movie called Six Pack.
What?
Right?
Okay.
It's called Six Pack, Dori. Now,
never heard of it.
No. We know Kenny Rogers, right? Not as an actor. For very good reason, because this is the only movie that he made. Okay.
How on earth did you even find this? Okay. Carry on.
Don't ask. I got to a point that these movies, they find me. They find me. And I did watch this movie, right? So Kenny Rogers stars as a racing car driver, kind of NASCAR-ish. And he's just down on his luck, right? Has Kenny Rogers ever been young? Have we ever seen Kenny Rogers with anything but gray hair? Imagine that. That's like seeing a Smurf without his hat on. Kenny Rogers with normal color hair.
No, I don't think it exists. I think he was born gray. Yeah.
Always been gray. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's kind of down in his luck, racing car driver. He gets stuck in a bathroom at a roadside diner, and his car gets stolen. So, shit, bugger's bastard. Kind of gets another car, goes to another diner. His car gets stolen again. What's going on here? I'm down on my luck. But this time, he chases the people who've now stolen his car. And it turns out to be a bunch of kids. Okay? 6 kids, orphans. This is the 6-pack in the movie, right?
Oh, no.
So amongst those kids, Dori, is Anthony Michael Hall.
No.
Yep. He's one of the kids.
Is it his first role?
First movie role. So this is 1982. So it's probably like 4 years away? 3 years away.
Sure.
From, right? From the big time. And Diane Lane. She's also one of the kids. So, and then the others So these are 2 of the kids. Orphans. And now they have been stealing cars for a corrupt sheriff who then gets the cars and resells them. And I don't know what they did. It's not really explained why he convinced them to do this, but they feel like they have to do this or whatever. It's like, 80 shenanigans. You don't need to understand that part. So he now then takes his kids under his wing. He says, we've got to get you away from the sheriff, takes him back to the NASCAR scene. Unbeknownst, and they become his pit crew. And then unbeknownst to him, they start stealing parts from all his competitors. Because like, this guy helped us. The only way we can help him is by stealing shit from the other cars, right? So he now becomes this NASCAR champion. And he doesn't realize the kids have stolen. Once he realizes, he now goes and starts buying everyone's stuff back. 80 shenanigans, people, jail, things, shenanigans, whatever.
Yeah.
There is another person in this movie who is the rival, Kenny Rogers' big rival in it. Terry Kaiser. An actor by the name of Terry Kaiser. You know who that is?
I mean, the name's vaguely familiar, but I don't know.
You've seen him? You know him very well. Terry Kaiser is Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's.
Of course.
So Terry Kaiser, I got to say, I mean, if you think of Terry Kaiser, he's dead. He's a dead guy because he's just limp in Weekend at Bernie's, and he's just like, you see how ripped he is in this movie.
He's not dead from the very beginning. You do see a little bit of him before he dies in the beginning.
But he's not like, he's just like a middle-aged guy. He's just a middle-aged guy.
Yeah, normal.
When you see him,
so in this, you're saying he's like a whole different animal.
Oh, he's the six-pack. He brings the six-pack.
He brings the six-pack. I'm so curious. I'm curious to see like a trailer or something, not to watch this movie, but to see clips perhaps.
Always in a tank top. Always in a tank top. He's the kind of antagonist, protagonist, rival. He's the antagonist is the good guy, protagonist is the bad guy, right?
No, other way.
Other way.
Okay.
Big words. It's a award-nominated podcast, people. So, listen, then a whole bunch of stuff that happens. It only happens in 80s movies. No one's going to dig too deep. Kenny Rogers sings a song. One thing, though. Of course he sings a song. He had a
country song? Okay.
The theme song is Love Will Turn You Around. Okay.
Love Will Turn You Around. Is that the predecessor to Love Will Tear Us Apart? Love Will Turn You Around. I don't know what that is.
And number one country hit to win to number 13 on the pop chart story.
Okay, a crossover hit,
if
you will. A crossover. Got it.
Kenny Rogers is all about the crossover. Kenny Rogers is a terrible actor. I mean, listen, one of the voices of his generation, if not the voice in his generation of country music, like top 5 all time.
I'm gonna guess that he didn't make any other movies after this. Is this it?
After he played himself in a lot of stuff, or people who are very adjacent to Kenny Rogers. And then 2021, he played a Kenny Rogers. I think he played himself again. 2012, in the 2000s, played himself again. This was the only starring role, and kind of went, you know what? That's not for me. That is not for me.
No, he had someone who was honest with him and said, "Listen, dude, you're a fantastic singer. Just stick with that. Don't do this again." Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need to be a triple threat. I will be so threatening at one. No. I'm not going to dance. I'm Kenny fucking Rogers. Look at this beard. Look at it. And people looked at it because and I think this is where he was like really leaning into real life. Every waitress that he encounters wants him so bad, but only waitresses he encounters. He ends up marrying a waitress. Okay. He marries a waitress and they adopt the kids and they go live in a lovely little house in the prairie.
All 6 kids?
All 6 kids. Now,
what happens to Terry Kaiser?
Shenanigans.
Oh, okay.
Shenanigans happens to him. He dies. He dies and then he gets taken to spring break. That's what happens to him. His corpse gets taken to spring break. That's what happens to Terry Kaiser. So they go live happily ever after. The kids, I got to tell you, some kids have an accent, some don't. They are all siblings, but they're just all over the place. It's just like there's no consistency. There's no backstory. They're just orphans. They're just orphans. There's this cop he's taken advantage of. No one really knows why. No one really cares because this is probably as much airtime as this movie has ever gotten, right?
Yes. I've literally never heard of it.
No. The New York Times at the time said it's a typical fable where orphans find a father, a lonely man finds a good woman, and everybody lives unreasonably happy ever after. That is Six-Pack. The whole movie is on YouTube. That's how you know high quality.
Oh, God. Okay. But that's cool because then I can skip through it. That sounds good. Exactly. I want to find Kenny Rogers singing.
You got to find Kenny Rogers singing.
And the waitress hitting on him. Yes. Want to see Terry Kaiser.
Ripped Terry Kaiser.
Want to see the kids. Well, at least the 2 kids that you mentioned that I know who they are.
Anthony Michael Hall. You got to check him out.
Yes. And Diane Lane. I'm keen to see Diane Lane young.
Listen, Diane Lane, I got to tell you, I don't think she ages because
she looks amazing still.
She doesn't age.
But wasn't she a kid? Literally a kid.
She's a kid. She's probably about 16 or so in this movie. So she was born in 1965. This movie was made in 1982. So So she's late teens.
Is she supposed to be a teenager in the
Yes.
movie, obviously? Okay.
Yeah. She's the older sibling. She's the older sibling. She's
Right.
not one of the waitresses. Doesn't get weird there.
Just checking.
It was the 80s. Things happened. And the most interesting thing I found out about this movie is that We Are the World, you know the song We Are the World, supergroup?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You've heard of them?
Yes.
Was recorded at Kenny Rogers' studio. Fun fact. Yeah.
Did not know
That's
that.
what I found out. Yeah, found that out.
You're just
in
full
my
of facts
research
today.
around this movie. So many facts. So one of the perks of being a wallflower, is that you might not go to the video store and mistakenly rent this movie thinking it's Cannonball Run. So that movie is 6-pack. Like I say, curiosities. You're going to go, I'll never watch that piece of shit. Maybe.
The fact that it's on YouTube, I will definitely skim through it for sure.
Yeah. And if you've never listened to a movie recommendation before on that Eddie show, we know that a movie is high quality when you can find the whole movie on YouTube, because not one single rights holder in that movie has been bothered. They've just seen, your movie's on YouTube. Let the people see it. Let the people watch it. I don't care. Don't care who uploads it. They didn't even bother putting it backwards. It's just a reverse mirror image. Just go watch it. That is 6-pack and the perks of being a wallflower. Give either a watch. It is going to be.
I think give mine a watch. Mine's a very good film.
We haven't spoken about Wham in about 15 minutes.
Oh my God. What is going on? Yes.
There's so much Wham content right now. We got a fantastic Wham interview coming up next week. We got to get into the Wham. Something that our good friend Neil Johnson sent us last week was the story of. So now, if you watch the Wham documentary, you would have seen a lot of the footage from Wham in China. Okay. So there was a lot of the really cool footage. It was from a movie called Wham in China, Foreign Skies. Right?
Which I didn't know existed before that article. Actually, I probably did. It was mentioned in Andrew's book, wasn't it?
Now, there's a bit of a legend around it because obviously Wham were the first band to go perform in China. China was still communist, but they were kind of coming out to the rest of the world, and they thought, let's bring Wham. It's a great way to showcase us, right? So they wanted to form a documentary. The Wham's manager at the time said, let's form a documentary. So they get a renowned filmmaker of the time, right, called Lindsay Anderson. So he not interested. He said, this is fluff. I don't give a shit.
I'm a serious auteur.
I'm serious. I'm a serious auteur. I make films.
Yes, not movies.
But of course, he needed the money, and he's intrigued by going to China because he goes, no one's really been there. It'll be a really cool place to go.
This is my opportunity. Right? I'm going to piggyback on Wham's back. Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
So off he goes, forms it. So he produces his version and presents it. Wham, management, George, Andrew go, no one has ever seen that piece of shit. It's got nothing to do with us. Because he now took the opportunity, he goes and forms things. He wants to see China. He wants to show this China that he wants to see, right? Yeah. So they say, this goes into the vault. No one ever sees it. In this article,
was Wham even in it?
Well, so he shot a lot of footage, which you can see. So if you watch the Wham documentary, you see a lot of those cuts, right? There's a lot of Wham, but in his cut, so they say there's a part where they were in concert. So they went there to form a concert. But in it, while they're at the concert, he then cuts to rice fields and starts showing China and not them, right?
Because there is that footage that, I mean, we've been seeing we as in people like you and me, not generally people, we've been seeing for years and years and years of like George and Andrew on the Great Wall of China. And it's like, well, where's that footage from? So now this is where it's from. Right. Got it.
It's all from this. So he shot all this, but he decided, no, I want to tell it in my way. I want to show China with kind of some Wham in the background. He made it a documentary about China with a Wham soundtrack, right? So this version, Chris Trihorn, a Guardian columnist, he's now seen the version, which is nobody. It's like done. It'll never be released publicly, right?
But why? Why not now? They could.
No.
Also,
no, I would say
where's all the footage? Where's all the footage? Like the
it's
original footage.
It's cut. There's a cut. There's a cut version. It exists, but no one will ever see it. They will never show it because Lindsay Anderson was very rude about George Michael. Okay. He only took the job because he needed money, but he also thought it was a low point in his career. He said, I need some money. I'm going to go to China. Let's go see what it's about. So while he's there, he goes, okay, I'm an artist. I want to tell the story. The problem is, at this time, he says he met his match in George Michael. Because George Michael is now emerging as this artist. George Michael wanted to, we know, music-wise, he has taken control of how the music videos looked. He rated himself as also a visual storyteller, and now there was a clash between them, right? He wrote this. There's some things he's got. There's letters that now between him and the producers and him and management, or whatever. He said this project has reached a dangerous crisis, and he warned the producers that there were misgivings, and hoping that they got Michael to see his latest version, of which they all ignored. He said that the producers or Wham's management said that the first cut was achingly boring and was scornful of Wham. Okay. He then made fun of the filmmaker Lindsay Anderson now makes fun of the public school upbringing of George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. Said, how could somebody like them ever tell me how to make a movie?
Why? That's so unnecessary. Just saying, so unnecessary.
He says, I was confronted by a young millionaire with an inflated ego. Though talented in his very limited range, he is a spoiled, conceited dumbbell.
Wow. Is this filmmaker still around?
Oh, no,
what has
no.
he done?
No, he was old then. He's old now. I mean, he's definitely not around now.
What is his claim to fame?
We'll look for that another time, because what I want to do is now, this is obviously an article from The Guardian, Chris Trihorn, who has seen it. If I write something like this, it is genius. He closed off the article. We're going to post it up, That 80 Show Essay, Facebook.
Yeah.
Perhaps Anderson, to paraphrase one of Wham's most enduring hits, wasted the chance he had been given, yet the band's custodians might care to call back to mind the silver screen and all its sad goodbyes.
Slow clap.
If you don't know, those are the lyrics to Careless Whisper. You were probably conceived to them, so you should know it. Well, you conceived a child to it. Don't pretend you don't know.
Don't pretend. Absolutely.
Dori, you may have heard that there's a Barbie movie out. It's kind of made mention. My God, there's a lot of marketing around the Barbie movie, right? So,
I mean, it's impressive.
Very impressive. Whoa. Who are we to miss a chance to jump on the SEO bandwagon? You know we're going to be all over it. So we got to have some Barbie content in the show. Now, for me, Barbie's been around since the 50s, right? 50s, around about them. But for me, Barbie was huge in the 80s because I was a kid in the 80s and my sisters were kids in the 80s. So they just had a shitload of Barbie stuff, right? And, oh, my word. If you want to encapsulate the style of the 80s, the consumerism, that's when I think Barbie really came to the fore, you know, in terms of her popularity.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
So the first 80s link I want to give you is apparently in the Barbie movie, Guns N' Roses, a legend / plays guitar in one of the songs. Ryan Gosling sings a song, guitar is played by Slash. That's the first 80s mention. Right. Dori, what I want you to do, got a whole bunch of links there. I want you to start clicking on them.
Okay.
We're going to put them on that 80 Show Essay. If you loved Barbie in the 80s, you're going to go through, this is like a checklist of I had that, wanted that, had that, of all the Barbies. So I want to talk to you about Barbie, what happened in the 80s. Barbie in the 80s. I mean, some great stuff here. There's articles on like which Barbie was popular, the year you were born, Barbie through the decades, but I want to read about Barbie in the 80s.
Yeah.
So the 80s was era of the yuppie, right? It was the first time you lived in the city, worked a high-powered job, and Barbie leaned into that. So more women into the workforce, and Barbie was like, I'm going to do that. So now suddenly Barbie had jobs in the 80s. Okay, there was Dr. Barbie, astronaut Barbie, pilot Barbie, and day-to-night Barbie, who was like
day-to-night
business suit. Well, listen, careful, careful. But she could be called Yappy Barbie because she had the stylish power suit looking very much like Angela from Who's the Boss, but then it turned into an evening gown. So she'd just go to the swanky city party, right? And Barbie's fashion. I remember my sisters had all these Barbie outfits. Barbie had shoulder pads. She had a hair crimper. There was a Barbie that you crimp her hair. I remember from the ads, big jewelry. It was MTV age. She had leggings. And this is when Barbie joined the band. Do you remember that? Barbie and the Rockers.
No, I do not remember that.
See, in the 80s, Barbie joined the most 80s looking band, Barbie and the Rockers, boots, ski pants, pink hair, perms. In the 80s, even Andy Warhol painted Barbie's portrait.
Did he? I mean, I know a lot about Warhol and I didn't know that.
Barbie even infiltrated the art world in the mid-80s. A New York jewelry designer named Billy Boy was one of the world's most famous Barbie doll collectors and had worked with Mattel to design 2 new dolls. When Andy Warhol, Billy Boy's friend, begged to paint his portrait, he responded that Warhol should paint Barbie instead.
Huh.
And when he said why, he said, because Barbie, c'est moi. Barbie is me. So that's Billy Boy. Never heard you before?
I'm scrolling through the 80s Barbies. And I have reached Great Shape Barbie.
Let me join you.
Please scroll down to Great Shape Barbie. Yes.
Share. Regale. All this is going to be that 80 Show SA Facebook page. You got to go look at it right now to find yourself Great Shape Barbie.
Great Shape Barbie has, of course, a turquoise headband. A turquoise, what looks like, it's hard because the picture's cut off, but I'm going to guess it's a leotard with, I'm guessing, turquoise leg warmers to match. And then there's something pink around her waist, which may or may not be like a cardigan that's tied around your waist, as you did.
Have you seen the Barbie that looks like she's Olivia Newton-John in Xanadu in the gold jumpsuit?
Yes.
From 1981. That is outrageous. There is Dream Date Barbie. My sisters had that one in particular. I remember Barbie's little sequins all up in my He-Man's business. Kept breaking off and eating up my He-Man stuff.
There's something called Fun Time Barbie. I'm not going to ask too many questions. It just says Fun Time Barbie.
Fun Time Barbie. Listen, this is spectacular. It is a checklist. If you were like a young girl in the 80s, you're going to go through this. You're absolutely going to love it because there is so many Barbies there.
So I never had Barbie as a kid. I was a Cindy doll girl. I always had Cindy. I didn't have Barbie.
Okay.
I also wasn't that girly. I was a bit of a tomboy. So I kind of outgrew the Cindy dolls and then wasn't really interested in dolls. But I have a kid who loves Barbie, and we have had many Barbies in this house. Many. Yes. Not from the 80s, obviously.
No.
But
80s Barbies hit differently. And if you didn't put your sister's Barbies in awkward positions, were you even a big brother? I've revealed too much. This has been That 80 Show. I think the biggest reveal of the show was that at Dori's after-school job, people sang to her and they expected Dori to know what they were singing about. At my after-school job, people sang to me and they expected me to give them another half jack of brandy. So that is a big revelation. Everything we've spoken about today can be found at 80 Show SA. All the details of how you can vote for your favorite 80s podcast. And if they're not available, vote for us in the APVA Awards. Details on our interview with the makers, producers of the Wham documentary. So excited about that. We've only got 30 minutes. I have got 2 days worth of questions, so hold me back. And Dori, I mean, I told you what I loved learning in the show. What did you love learning in today's show?
Oh, definitely the Kenny Rogers stuff. I mean, the fact that he acted in a movie, did not know that. The fact that he sang in the movie that he acted in. I'm all over that movie. I'm about to go and YouTube that nonsense.
And first listener who sends us a picture of Kenny Rogers without gray hair gets a pair of Ken's underpants. Thanks for joining me, Dori. Goodbye.
Bye.